Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Dynamic 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is United Kingdom, what's new in making tax digital for VAT in Dynamics 365 Finance. My name is Emily, and I'll be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be viewable by other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you're agreeing to this experience. The recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions throughout the presentation. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Elizaveta Golub, Senior Program Manager, Adam Trukawka, Senior Program Manager Lead, and Artem Strolenkov, Software Developer. Elizaveta, over to you.
Thank you, Emily, for the introduction, and hello, everyone. I thank you for joining this Tech Talk session and for your attention to the Making Tax Digital feature. My name is Emily, introduced to Elizaveta Golub, and I am the PM of Dynamics 365 Finance Globalization team working on MTD feature. And together with me, my colleagues, Adam Trukawka and Artem Strolenkov, are helping with the Q&A chat, where you can ask your ongoing questions. Some of your questions can be also answered in the end of the presentation and offline afterwards. We will publish the questions and the answers on them after the session together with this deck, so that everyone could familiarize with the content after the presentation. Let me also encourage you to join our tax declarations group in Yammer. This group is dedicated specifically to topics related to tax declarations of different countries. The link of this group will be in the end of the presentation, together with other useful links for today's subject. This session today is dedicated specifically to the changes that we recently introduced to our solution in Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance, supporting the interoperation with the web service of Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs of the United Kingdom for direct submission of digital VAT return. The changes are intended, first of all, to accommodate legal requirements officially published by HMRC on their web portal, to send specific types of user audit data when using MTD VAT API, to help protect confidential data of companies from criminals and fraudsters. These specific types of user audit data are also known as fraud prevention headers, because they must be sent to HMRC's MTD VAT API as part of HTTP requests headers. Before we start, please kindly take a moment to read our disclaimer. In general, it informs that Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance solution for making tax digital for VAT in the United Kingdom is software under development. All dates and features specified are subject to change without notice, and Microsoft may make changes to specifications and product descriptions at any time without notice. Well, as soon as the changes we are going to discuss today are mainly intended to accommodate fraud prevention headers requirement, during this presentation we will first of all overview the basic requirements on fraud prevention headers, to know which connection methods are supported in our solution, and what are the specific types of user audit data that must be sent to HMRC for the supported connection methods when you submit digital VAT return. Next, I will tell what has changed in Dynamics 365 Finance solution for making tax digital for VAT to support fraud prevention headers, and how the feature setup has changed with this update. In this part of the presentation, a demo will be provided to better explain the steps of the new setup and also the way how you can validate and make sure that fraud prevention headers are collected entirely. After that, we will talk about when these changes will be available and what options from timing perspective exist for testing before upgrading your production environment to the version including these changes in MTD feature. The end of the session will be dedicated to your questions. As I mentioned, you are welcome to submit your questions to the Q&A pen of this event. I also would like to pay your attention that in the Q&A pen, either already published or will be soon, you can find a link on a questionnaire about your user experience with our solution for making tax digital for VAT in Dynamics 365 Finance. We value super high your opinion and your feedback. This questionnaire is absolutely anonymous, and this is really a way to help us to understand how we can make things better for you. Like, for example, starting from the initial release of MTD feature, we enabled such capabilities for the feature like reporting for VAT group and reporting for companies with primary address outside of the United Kingdom. These extensions were highly requested and thus prioritized in our backlog basing on your feedback. So please do not hesitate to share with us your feedback. The link on the mentioned questionnaire will also be available on the useful links slide of this presentation, and it will be possible to fill it in after the event as well. Okay, let's focus on our main subject and go to the overview of fraud prevention headers requirement in MTD for VAT. As I mentioned in the very beginning, by law, all the HTTP requests sent to MTD VAT APIs of HMRC must include specific types of user audit data. According to information on the HMRC's web portal, you can find this information by the link on this slide. And this user audit data is collected to help protect confidential data of companies from criminals and fraudsters. According to official documentation on fraud prevention headers, different sets of fraud prevention headers can be required for different MTD-compatible software, depending on their architecture. This architecture must be defined preliminary for MTD-compatible software, transferred as a value of connection method header. This is the first fraud prevention header in the set. And the full scope of other headers to be collected and transferred will be defined by this connection method value. For Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance, we support two connection methods, web app via server and batch process direct. Depending on whether request to HMRC was initiated in batch or not, system will send automatically the needful set of headers. The web app via server method is the most commonly used according to our statistics of requests sent via our web application. This slide shows the full set of headers required for both connection methods. Some of them are required for web app via server only, and some of them for batch process direct. but most of them are required for both connection methods. So in our discussion during this presentation today, we will not differentiate further by connection methods, and we'll talk about them as a whole in general. As you can see from the list, the set of these specific types of user audit data, in fact, 21 different parameters of either user browser, like for example, if do not track option is enabled on the user browser or not, or a list of browser plugins, or user device parameters like time zone, window size, and screen size. There are also parameters identifying user device and also the product used, including information about its version and hashed license ID. And there are also network parameters like client local IPs and client and server public IPs, with the timestamp informing when these network parameters are collected. Documentation on fraud prevention headers also states that all the fraud prevention headers must be collected immediately before the request is transferred to MTD API. This means that the moment when system can start collecting them is just after the user has initiated the request to MTD API, either to obtain information about VAT obligations of the company or to submit a VAT return. Okay, now let me talk about what was changed in MTD VAT feature with the current update. Those users who are using our MTD VAT feature in Dynamics 365 Finance may have already noticed that some of our previous updates already included some set of these headers because we are showing to the user which information was collected and will be sent to MTD VAT API. With the current update, we cover the full scope of required fraud prevention headers for those connection methods that we support for Dynamics 365 Finance in version 3.0, with exception for two of them that cannot be defined for Dynamics 365 Finance. They are GovClient Multifactor and GovClient Public Port. For these two headers, specific exception was received from HMRC, and it is allowed to omit these two headers for those companies who are using our web application for interoperation with HMRC's MTD APIs. In addition to this, as soon as starting from this update, the scope of headers was extended, and also MTD VAT feature was has started collecting public IP addresses. We had to introduce an additional setup for system administrator role, and in addition to that, a new system administrator consent. Thus, starting from this update, system administrator will need to provide a new consent to enable further usage of the feature. The new version of the feature setup package for electronic messaging provides new client secrets for the production web application. It is recommended in the documentation on MTD provided by HMRC to rotate client secret of web application. Current rotation is included into the package and already available on the LCS. This version of the package also includes some other minor changes which can be interesting for those companies who are just installing the feature. So in case you are planning an installation of MTD VAT feature in Dynamics 365 Finance, I recommend to download and use this new version of the setup. In this version, actions related to test user are excluded from the processing. Fixed missing setup for preview format, and also excluded server token of the production application as parameter as soon as it was just deprecated on HMRC side and it is not used any longer. Well, as you can see, the scope of changes is not so large, but nevertheless it is important to pay attention to it to avoid any issues and be ready to the next VAT return submission after the upgrade to 10.022 or higher version. So now I will tell what the current update includes, and then we will move smoothly to the information about the new setup for this upgrade. Well, current update for MTD VAT feature is composed of 3 parts. Changes become available in finance starting from version 10.022. In addition to application upgrade, to enable change, you will need to import new version of 3 electronic reporting formats and MTD VAT model mapping together with electronic messaging framework model. And third part of the update is the new version of the package for the feature setup. All the changes in it, as I explained, are mostly optional, and later today I will provide a short additional demo how to use this package to deliver only necessary changes to your system. So here are the steps that you will need to do to get the latest changes in MTD VAT feature. First, you need to upgrade your application to 10.022 version or even later. As soon as your application is successfully upgraded, you need to import latest version of MTD VAT web request header format, MTD VAT authorization format, MTD VAT model mapping under electronic messages framework model, and MTD VAT interpretation format under tax declaration model. Next, for MTD VAT web request header format, system administrator will need to provide a new setup. A new application-specific parameter was introduced for this format. System administrator will need to specify internet address of external web services that would send a response containing public IP addresses. We do not recommend any particular web service. This should be a web service of company's choice in accordance with their policy and security rules. The process how to set up new application-specific parameter will be shown in the demo later today, and it is also described in our renovated documentation on docs. Please let me make also another small announcement that in the next version for finance in 10.023, there is planned to be introduced a new feature in electronic reporting, which is called use application-specific parameters from previous version of electronic reporting formats feature in feature management workspace. When this feature is enabled, configured for the lower version of an electronic reporting format, parameters automatically become applicable for the higher version of this format. This feature was introduced to provide more usability, and we just noticed that this is not a seldom situation when after an electronic reporting format version upgrade, users do not export and import setup of application-specific parameters, and these results failed execution of the report. So we hope that this feature will help will help to avoid such fails, and it will allow using setup of application-specific parameters from the previous versions. Thus, after you will upgrade to 10.0.23, I recommend to go to Feature Management, find the Use Application-Specific Parameters from previous version of electronic reporting formats feature and enable it. This feature will be working for all the reports having application-specific parameters in all your legal entities through your system. And the last step of the setup is reauthorization of the production web application. This is a very important step of the setup. According to the documentation on HMRC's portal, the reauthorization must be done every 18th month. Thus, those companies who are using the feature from its initial release in 2019 could be already requested to reauthorize. In case your company was requested to reauthorize already or was not, and even if you are using the feature significantly less than 18 months, after the upgrade to 10.0.22, you will have to reauthorize so that system administrator provided in you consent to share your data with external system that is governed by HMRC's terms and privacy policy and bear all the risks of using any third-party service. This is mandatory condition to use MTD-VAT feature further in Dynamics 365 Finance. I will show this process to refresh how this should be done. Well, now we are going to the demo. This demo is pre-recorded and I will be showing it as a recording. Some part of this demo may include either my personal identifiable information like my public IP or information about third parties' web content. Such type of the information is in this demo was blurred to not expose information that should not be. Okay, for this demo, I use GBSI demo data, and here I start from importing of configurations from the global repository. I go to the global repository and search by the MTD prefix the necessary configurations. First of all, it is MTD VAT interpretation format under tax declaration model. Make sure that you select the necessary version. It is 31.9 and import this format to your system. After this format will be successfully imported to your system, search for another two formats under Electronic Messages Framework model. They are MTD VAT authorization format, first of all, of version 41.13. You should select the necessary version and import it from the repository to your system. Next, another format under the same model is MTD VAT Web Request Header format of 41.45 version. Import it as well. During this import, model mapping of the needed version should also be imported, and we should make sure that version 41.68 exists in your system as a result of format importing. Just make sure that this is so. And the same for the model. Version 41 should be successfully imported to your system as well. After the import is done, we can go to the electronic reporting configurations workspace and find the MTD VAT web request headers format that was just imported to your system under the electronic messages framework model. I usually suggest to read the content of the KB article related to a version. For this purpose, you can copy the number of the KB article and use issue search tool of the LCS portal, like it is shown in this demo. The KB article usually contains all the necessary information about the changes introduced in this particular version. Then after that, for this particular format, MTD VAT web request headers format, make sure that it is selected on the left-hand side of your browser page, and then go to the action pane under configurations, search for application-specific parameters group, and select setup. Here in the setup, we can see that we have in this system two versions of this configuration imported. The previous version does not include any application-specific parameters, when the new version that was just recently imported contains a new application-specific parameter, which is called external service endpoint. For this application-specific parameter, we are going to provide the setup. It is assumed that this setup must be done by system administrator role. Select this application-specific parameter and go to the conditions first tab. Here in the lookup result, we have two values predefined. And for these two values, we must provide the necessary setup. Gov client public IP lookup result will influence on the results which will be reported to HMRC in Gov client public IP fraud prevention header. In this case, client is our user's web application browser. This means that the client public IP is the public IP of the user's device that is used to initiate a request to HMRC. This means that the setup we are going to provide will be applied to the user's device. Like, for example, we select Gov client public IP, and here in the external service endpoint, system administrator will need to set up an internet address, HTTPS address, that will be called during the request sending to HMRC. This means that as soon as the end user, the business user, for example, requests an applications, VAT obligations of the company, system will call first the specified external web service endpoint. From here, try to obtain the public IP of our client, and this public IP from the response of this web service will be included into the header of the request, which will be further transferred to HMRC. All this complex process will be hidden from the business user eyes, so it will be absolutely invisible in case system administrator will set up preliminary this web service here. So basically, by using Bing, I can simply find my IP address by using a request of this type. As you can see, to know your IP address is very easy from the internet. You can also use a query like API public IP to search for a necessary third parties or external web services that could serve for the purpose to obtain the public IP addresses, like this. And then to provide the HTTP address here in the column external service endpoint, like HTTPS, and then the address which will be used by the system to obtain the public IP of the client. As it is shown in this demo, you can specify 2 or even more different web services which will be called by the system during the runtime of the sending your requests to HMRC. For vendor public IP and for client public IP, different web services can be defined and used. Moreover, different web services may work for different type of the IP address. Like, for example, in case you select one web service which perfectly serves for obtaining a client public IP, potentially it may not be useful for the vendor public IP, and it can differ. So as soon as this setup is provided, make sure to change the state of this configuration to completed. It is important to change the state to completed because in the in-progress state, this configuration will be ignored by the system during the runtime. So as soon as the setup for the application-specific parameter is provided, we can simply check, validate, how is it working or not. We do not need to go anywhere else. We should stay here in the electronic reporting framework and keep focus on MTD-VAT web request header format. Then we can simply click on Run button from here and specify here in the web service just the name of the web service that is going to be used for the testing submission, for example. Right now, the system initiated all the necessary methods to collect information for fraud prevention headers. I have also had to hide all this information, but make sure when you will be running this format that all the headers are filled in properly. Pay attention specifically to vendor public IP and client public IP here, that they were identified. In case they were not identified properly at this moment, try to use some other web service. Basically, in general scenario, our business user would mark this checkbox and click on Submit button. In our case, now we do not need to submit anything anywhere. So we just close the page and go next to the web applications page. At this moment, all the necessary setup in the electronic reporting is completed. And the next step is in the web applications page. Here we also have a supplementary headers fast up, and this is another alternative way how you can define IP addresses. In case you are absolutely sure that the public IP of your client is always the same, for example, you have some specific device to interoperate with HMRC, and this device has some static public IP address, then probably you will not need to set up any external web services, but you can simply specify the public IP address here. Here I'm just specifying some fake numbers which will be used by the system. This setup will be used only in case system just was not able to obtain an IP address by using the external web services. So the priority 1 is for the external web services. Then the next one is the supplementary headers. So this is an alternative way to set it up. make sure that you will be setting up these parameters for your production application, but not as I am showing here for the sandbox, because in the real life you are using the first application, which is called here Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. Well, and another important step here for the system administrator is to provide a new system administrator consent. Even if you have provided previously in the past the first system administrator consent, as it is shown here on the demo, you will need to provide a new consent. And for this purpose, you will need to get the authorization code first. Type the scope like read VAT, write VAT as usually. Click OK. And here it is, the new consent of the system administrator. As you can see, it differs a little bit from the previous one, and it contains 2 points. Make sure that you mark that checkbox and read the points that you agree with. They are to share your data with external system that is covered by HMRC's terms and privacy policy, and bear all risks of using any third-party service. It is also available links here to our privacy statement and the feature documentation in case you would like to familiarize with some details. So after OK button is clicked, you are redirected to HMRC's portal, and here you can you not can, but you have to provide your user's ID and password. In my case, I will be using a test user, and for this purpose, I go to the new API and I will create a test user for organization. I will copy user ID and password to sign in page. And sign in. For the production application, you will be using the user ID and the password obtained from HMRC during your registration for the MTD account. Okay, and now the authorization was granted. As soon as the authorization code was obtained, we can obtain the access token. As you remember, there are only 10 minutes to obtain this access token. In my case, I will also need to copy the provided VAT registration number related to the test user, and I will use a new additional field in the electronic messaging processing. This additional field was introduced just recently in the scope of our multiple VAT registration project. It is very useful for those companies who are running their MTD feature from a legal entity which has several VAT registrations. And now we just can continue obtaining our access token. As we can see, access token was successfully obtained and the new system administrator consent received. You can see it in the action log, a new record related to system administrator consent 2021 received. From this moment, our business user may safely start using the feature for the business processes. Like, for example, we will try to obtain VAT applications for now. For this purpose, as you already know, we just create a new electronic message and specify the dates. And after that, we just send report by using, in our case, test retrieve VAT application action. So now our business user will see updated scope of the fraud prevention headers, including public IP addresses, and now business user will need to do the same as in the past, mark the checkbox and click on Submit button. And request, as we can see, was successfully completed. Well, the information about VAT obligations was successfully received. Okay, this is all from demo perspective. Thank you for watching it. And now I just want to make, in addition, a quick summary about the setup. After electronic reporting configurations are imported, system administrator specify an external web services, internet addresses, and the application-specific parameter of MTD VAT web request headers format, and do not forget to complete it. Then go through the authorization process and accept the new system administrator consent to enable further feature usage. In case system administrator does not provide a new consent, token of the production web application will not be possible to refresh, and no requests will be possible to send to HMRC. Well, that was the most important part of the new setup. And now I will provide information about additional optional changes that are related to the setup of the feature in electronic messages. As I mentioned before, I recommend to download the new version of the package and use it for feature installation in the future in case MTD VAT feature was not installed yet. The new package version includes the changes listed in this slide. And first of all, this is a new client secret for production web application. I will show in the second demo how to use this package to import into the system only necessary information from this package. The package also includes the missing format setup for preview action and excludes outdated part of the setup, like actions related to the test user and server token of the production application. Important comment here is to not use truncate entity data option during importing the new version of the setup package to prevent issues with historical data related to MTD VAT feature. In case your company is already using the MTD feature and you import setup with this parameter, the old setup records will be replaced with the new ones, and your electronic messages created in the past will remain linked to the old records and will not be accessible through the user interface. So now we can watch the demo. It is also pre-recorded, in this case only with consistency purpose. So this demo is recorded using DEMF demo data, and I start from the web applications page. And I just wanted to pay attention where the client secret is stored. This field value is never visible from the business from the user interface, and it is also encrypted in the database. So there is no possibility to see this client secret, but we recommend to refresh it to support the rotation of the client secret process. And as you can see here in the supplementary headers fast tab, if you imported previously old supplementary headers data entity, there are a lot of different lines here we recommend to delete them all because they will not be considered by the feature any longer, except for those 3 that were shown in the previous demo number 1. So to download the new version of the package, just go to the shared asset library of the LCS portal as usually, then move to the data package section and search for the new version of the package. It is easily searchable by the prefix like UK MTD. So we can see a new version is published. Make sure that the name of this package is the one you are looking for and simply import it to your computer. After it is imported to your computer, you can go to data management and create a new importing project. Give it a name of your choice and select the file that was just downloaded from the LCS shared asset library. As soon as the data entities are shown in the grid, delete those entities that already imported to your system and are not needed except for web applications and supplementary headers in case you are going to use the supplementary header setup as alternative way to define public IP addresses of your client and server. Make sure that truncate entity data checkbox is not activated, is not marked. It is no. And then you can safely import. Thus, only the new information will come into your system and the server token, not server token, client secret will be successfully refreshed. So it is not visible from the UI, but it is there together with the 3 supplementary headers that are supported in the current version of the solution. The same for the sandbox. Okay, now we just need to go to the electronic messaging processing, and we are going to exclude unnecessary actions related to the test user for the test processing. There are 3 actions related to the test user. They are not supported any longer in electronic reporting configuration. So in case you will try to run them, you will find a new validation that they are not supported. And here I'm paying attention again to the new tax registration number additional field, which we recommend to use instead of the general VAT registration for the companies with multiple VAT registrations. So, short summary of what was shown in the second demo. We watched how to import new production application client secret from the package and exclude unnecessary supplementary headers, set up and leave only those 3 which can be potentially used as alternative to usage of external web services for public IP. And we also excluded unnecessary actions related to test user, because now HMRC's developer portal provides possibility to generate a test user in a more useful way. Well, now we can talk about when these changes will be available and can be installed. As I already mentioned, the first two parts of fraud prevention headers were delivered for Dynamics 365 Finance quite some time ago. First package is available since 10.03 version, and then in 10.05 version there was an extension delivered. Now the current update that covers full scope of fraud prevention headers according to version 3.0 is included in version 10.022 of Finance application. You can use a service update availability section on docs.microsoft.com or by the link from this slide for more and actual information on dates on the monthly updates. According to current plan, version 10.022 is now already available from September 3rd for those companies who are registered as early adopters and participate in the release validation program in PIP. On 23rd of October, version 10.022 will be generally available for upgrade of production environments. Before that, in the end of September, this version will become available for sandboxes environments, and it will be possible to try this feature update on your sandboxes. Okay. Well, now we are in the end of my prepared content for this presentation. And before we go to your questions, let me make one more small announcement related to the MTD VAT feature documentation. Just early in this morning, the new version of the MTD VAT feature documentation was published officially, and now it is already available for everyone. The long read topic was split into several subtopics by common sense. For example, for setup, you now have a specific subsection with step-by-step guidance on how to set up the feature. There is also a checklist which can be used to check your setup in case you face some issues during the feature setup. A new content about VAT setup details specific to UK was also added. So here you can also check for some VAT setup things and also how the boxes are calculated basing on the setup of application-specific parameters of the VAT declaration in electronic reporting. In the end of this subsection, some examples of setup are also included to better illustrate how some scenarios will impact your VAT declaration. This renovation was also done basing on clients and partners' feedback, and I hope you will find this new version as more useful and helpful for your projects and feature usage. Well, thank you very much for your attention during the presentation, and I think we can go to the Q&A section. And let me probably start with sharing some questions and preliminary to this session. We were receiving lots of questions on when version 3 of fraud prevention will be supported, and I hope this question was clarified during the presentation. And here is the question I would like to voice. It is related to AX2012R3. As you probably know, this product is going to be out of our support starting from October 12, 2021, which is about in 1 month. And after this date, we do not plan to release any updates to the MTD VAT feature as well for AX2012R3. Thus, in case any changes will be coming for this feature just changes in requirements, we will not be able to support them. At the same time, the web application granted by HMRC for AX 2012-R3 will still be available for some time, but for those companies who are using this product and do not have any plans to move to the cloud version, for them it would be probably a good idea to start getting their own web applications from HMRC to be safe in case at some point, at some moment, web application granted by HMRC for AX 2012-R3 will become unavailable. Currently, the MTD VAT feature in AX 2012-R3 covers also the full scope of fraud prevention headers with the recently released hotfix with KB number, let me check, 4623486, with the same exception for the same two headers. So the same exception was obtained for AX 2012-R3 for Gov client or Gov multiple. Sorry, I forgot how this header is called. Okay, for the same two fraud prevention headers as I told for Dynamics 365 Finance. Okay, Adam, please let me know if there are any unanswered questions left that we could try to answer now. We have about 1 to 2 minutes left, or probably there are some questions that you would like to voice and comment.
Yes, hi everyone. Lisa, there was a couple of questions I answered already about the one of the repeating question, which was like asked that this update of fraud prevention headers is published in version 22. What about the previous versions?
I guess it was already covered, right?
Yeah, partially you covered that in previous slides. So actually the answer is that this is one of the 3 updates related to fraud prevention headers, right? This one is the most critical and people need to pay attention because of this public IP, which HMRC requires to send. But also there should be, the HMRC does not state if they will be rejecting the transmission if those headers are not filled, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, thank you, Adam. Closing the event, let me remind that on the last page of the deck, you will find some useful links which can help to simplify your search of the necessary information related to the feature. And there is also a link on the questionnaire about your user experience with MTD VAT feature in Dynamics 365 Finance. I encourage you to share your feedback with us to help us making the things better for you. And closing the event, let me thank my colleagues and TechTalk platform team for organizing the session and helping me with the Q&A today. Our colleagues from the support team for delivering all the important information, and also to all and everyone who helped to distribute the invitation on this event and help to make it happen. Thank you all very much and have a great day ahead. Emily, back to you.
Thank you. I've posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel. We'd like your feedback on today's session and to hear what you'd like to see in future events. Thank you for your participation. As a reminder, the recording of today's session will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters and audience for joining us today.